Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this Ankara top, and if that's something that you'd like to see, definitely keep watching. It promises to be another fun and detailed tutorial, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Enjoy the video. To make your Ankara top, you'll need the following items. You need a measuring tape, and this is basically so you can put measurements onto your fabric and take your measurements as well. You need your thread snips. You'd also need your tailor's chalk or fabric marker. You need your fabric scissors, and I'll advise that you get a really durable and affordable pair if you can. I put some links in the description bar, so do check it out if you're interested in purchasing one. You'd also need some pins. You need a pattern master, and if you would like to shop one of these as well, I've got a link, or I've got links in the description bar, so do check it out. You need some fabric, and I've got 2 yards of Ankara fabric here. However, depending on your size, you could need more or less. It's okay if you don't have a pattern master, you can definitely still make this top. However, I just find it easier to work with a pattern master. I forgot to add that you'll need a button. You'd also need a safety pin as well as some elastic, and this is basically so that we can do the sleeves. Start off by cutting the fabric you need. I find that it's easier to work with the portion of fabric that you need at the time. So basically what I decided to do was cut out the fabric that I needed, and I just made it as wide as my hip measurement plus 7 inches. So after cutting this out, the next thing you want to do is you want to fold it into 2 and place it on your working table. After folding the fabric into 2, go ahead and fold it one more time so that you folded it into a total of 4. You want to fold it so that the folded edge is placed against the separated edges. However, you don't want it exactly on the separated edges. You want to leave a space of about 1.5 or 2 inches away from the separated edges as shown. At the top, draw a top line which will act as the shoulder line, and this line is only about 1 inch wide, so that's about 2.5 centimeters wide. Starting at the top line, mark out the blouse length measurement plus 1 inch hemming allowance. This measurement is marked out vertically as shown, and for instance, if your measurement or blouse length measurement rather is 25 inches, you want to go ahead and mark 25 inches plus 1 inch hemming allowance. So you want to go ahead and mark out a total of 26 inches. After marking out the blouse length plus hemming allowance, go ahead and cut off the fabric at that point, making sure to keep the remaining fabric as we'll be needing it for the sleeves later on. Starting at the top or shoulder line, mark out the shoulder to bust point measurement vertically. Mark the armhole line at 2 inches above the shoulder to bust point measurement. So for example, if the shoulder to bust point measurement is 11, you want to go ahead and mark the armhole line at 9 inches. And from the shoulder line, mark out the shoulder to waist measurement vertically as well. So starting from the top to the bottom, you should have the shoulder line, the armhole line, the bust line, the waist line, and the hem line. Go ahead and pin the center front onto the center back. If you don't know, the folded edge will be the center front while the separated edges will be the center back. So go ahead and pin them together. Starting at the center front, measure 1 inch horizontally towards the center back as shown, and then go ahead and trim off all the excess that we don't need. Next, we'll be inputting our body measurements onto the fabric, and we want to work our way from the center front out as shown. On the shoulder and armhole lines, mark half the shoulder measurement plus half an inch sewing allowance. This measurement is marked horizontally. Connect the points marked on the shoulder and armhole lines with a vertical line as shown. On the bust line, mark 1/4 of the bust measurement plus 1 inch, so you want to have half an inch for the sewing allowance and half an inch for the ease. You also want to mark 1/4 of the bust measurement plus 1 inch on the armhole line. On the waistline, Mark a quarter of the waist measurement plus 1.5 to 2 inches for the ease and sewing allowance. The sewing allowance is still 1/2 inch. However, it's up to you what you mark on there. And on the hemline, mark a quarter of the hip measurements plus 1 inch, and that will be 1/2 inch for the sewing allowance and 1/2 inch for the ease. After marking out all these points, connect the point on the armhole line to that on the bust line, and then the point on the bust line to that on the waistline, and then the point on the waistline to that on the hip line. For that, I decided to use my pattern master. However, you can't use your freehand if you don't have a pattern master. Starting at the center front, on the shoulder line, mark the neck width of 3 3/4 inches horizontally. From the shoulder line on the center back, mark the back neck depth of 1 inch vertically. This will be measured on the double or on the separated edges, and then on the center front, starting at the shoulder line again, mark the neck depth of 3 3/4 inches vertically. Go ahead and connect the necklines as shown. Mark 1 inch vertically on the shoulder or armhole depth line as shown, and then go ahead and connect this to the shoulder neck point with a slant line. The shoulder neck point is where the neck width stops. Draw in the armhole curve, making sure it touches the 1 inch drop that we've just made, and then it goes in a little bit about midway and then goes back to touch the armhole line. To draw in my armhole curve, I make use of my pattern master as I find it easy to use and more accurate. Starting from the back neckline at the center back, go ahead and cut out as shown, making sure not to cut out the front neckline yet. After cutting out the back neckline, unpin the center front from the center back and then fold away the center back so that you don't accidentally cut it. Afterwards, go ahead and cut out the front neckline as shown. We will be cutting out the belt next, and you want to make use of the remaining of the fabric that we ripped apart in the beginning. So go ahead and fold the remaining of the fabric into 4 as shown. So I'm going to to fold mine into 2, then I'm going to fold it over 1 more time to make a total of 4. And then go ahead and pin it into place to keep your fabric secure while you're cutting. Next, you want to go ahead and trim off all the rough edges that are at this side. However, it's important that I mention that you want to fold your fabric on the yard. So I have the long length all the way, and then I folded it on the yard. I hope that's not confusing. Depending on your preference, cut out the desired belt length that you want. I think I went with a belt length of about 36 inches, so I went ahead to mark that out, then I cut out the rest. However, don't throw the remaining of your fabric away, as you'll be needing it to cut out your facing. Starting at the ends with the folded edges, mark out 5 inches horizontally, and then starting at the other side, mark out 5 inches vertically as shown. Afterwards, go ahead and connect these points with a slant line. At the very top, mark out 3 inches horizontally, starting at the folded edges, and then go ahead and connect this to the bottom with a slant line as shown. After connecting the points, cut out the belt as shown. Separate the belts and indicate the wrong side of the fabric, and then go ahead and fold each belt into 2 as shown and pin the edges together so that you can mark out the sewing allowance of 1/2 inch, and then you can sew it together following the shape of the belt. After sewing, this is what the belt looks like. The next thing to do is to trim off the corners so that you have your belt sharp and nice. Then afterwards, go ahead and turn your belt inside out, making sure to push out all the corners, and then go ahead and iron. Using the piece of fabric that we cut off while making the belt, go ahead and fold the piece into a little bit so that you can cut off the facing. Then go ahead and place the front piece on it, making sure the folded edges of both pieces align. Pin the neckline onto the facing piece and then cut out the neckline using the front neckline piece as a template. After cutting out the same neckline on the facing, unpin the facing and then go ahead and pin the facing back in place so that it doesn't move. You also want to go ahead and measure the shoulder width you want for the facing, and I decided to go with 2 inches. So you want to measure that all around, following the shape of the neckline as shown. Afterwards, go ahead and cut on these points as shown. After cutting out the front facing, cut out the back facing. So you want to get the remaining part of that scrap fabric and then you want to fold it like so and place the back piece on it so that you can cut out the back facing. For the back facing, you should have 2 separated pieces as it's not on fold. Go ahead and measure 2 inches all around following the neckline and then cut on these points. Overlock the outer edges of your facing pieces. After overlocking, place the front facing on the front piece of fabric so that the right sides are facing each other. Go ahead and pin along the neckline and then go ahead and measure out 1/2 inch all around the neckline and sew along these points. After sewing, this is what it looks like. Go ahead and notch along the neckline using your thread snips. Be careful not to cut through the stitches. After notching all around, go ahead and top stitch as shown. After top stitching, fold the facing in and iron out the neckline. Moving on to the back piece of the blouse, pin the 2 back pieces together on the center back as shown. Starting at the top of the back neckline, mark out 7 inches vertically for the top slit. This is because the top has no zipper, so basically you need a slit so that you can wear your top easily and take it off easily. So starting at the 7 inches points that we've just marked, go ahead and mark 1 inch horizontally all the way to the bottom of the top, and then go ahead and sew along these points. After sewing, this is what it looks like, and as you can see, I have my slit already at the top. Next, We need to make a button loop for the button that will go on the slit. To make a button loop, cut out a small strip of fabric that is about 4 inches long and about 1 inch wide. After cutting out the fabric, go ahead and pipe the fabric. To pipe the fabric, you want to fold the fabric over a total of 3 times. So you want to fold it over 1 time on the left, 1 time on the right, and then fold all of that over so that it closes up together. Then go ahead and top stitch it close. After piping, this is what the button loop looks like. Go ahead and cross the piped piece as shown, adjusting it to the desired size so that your button can go in freely and come out freely. When you're happy with the size, hold it together with a pin and then go ahead and stitch it, making sure you back stitch. On the left side of the back piece, open up the zipper allowance and then go ahead and mark 1 inch vertically and then 1 inch horizontally as shown. The point where this 1 inch marks meet will be where we will place our button loop. Pin the button loop so that the loop head is on the other side as shown. After pinning the button loop into position, go ahead and sew the back facing in the same manner that we've sewn the front facing. So you want to go ahead and pin the facing along the neckline. You want to go ahead and sew the facing on a 1/2 inch sewing allowance, notch the facing, and then top stitch the facing into position. After top stitching the facing, the next thing to do is to fold the facing over so that the right side of the facing is facing the right side of the fabric. You want to go ahead and pin the ends of the facing, which is where the center back is, and then you want to go ahead and measure 1 inch horizontally and sew the facing onto the fabric at the center back. You want to repeat this for the other side. After sewing the facing down at the center back, this is what it looks like. Go ahead and remove the pins, trim off all the excesses, and then turn your facing inside out as shown. Push out all the corners and iron out the neckline. After ironing the back piece, place the front piece on the back piece so that the right sides of both pieces are facing each other. Then go ahead and mark or indicate the waistline on both sides of the back piece as shown. Gently lift off the front piece and then go ahead and pin the belt onto the waistline of the back piece. You want to make sure that the belt is centered around the waistline, and then you want to go ahead and measure what you have from the armhole to the waistline so that you can replicate it on the other side. So after pinning both belts on both sides, go ahead and cover it back up with the front piece, making sure that the sides align, and then go ahead and pin the front piece to the back piece. After pinning the front piece to the back piece, you should have the belt sandwiched between both pieces at the waistline. Go ahead and mark out the sewing allowance of 1/2 inch on both sides, and then go ahead and join both sides on this allowance. After sewing the sides, this is what it looks like. So the next thing to do is to sew the shoulders together. Pin the front and back shoulders together, making sure the facings and the stitches align. Go ahead and mark out the sewing allowance of 1/2 inch and then sew on this allowance. You want to repeat this for the second shoulder as well. So far, This is what the top looks like. Measure out the armhole so that we can cut the sleeves. To cut out your sleeves, fold your fabric into 4 as shown. After folding, check that the width is at least the armhole measurement that we just took and the length is fine. At the top, start from the folded edges and then mark out the armhole measurement that we've just taken horizontally. From the other side, mark out 5 inches vertically and then go ahead and mark out the armhole measurement horizontally all the way down to the end of the fabric. Draw in the S-shaped armhole curve and then go ahead and cut out the sleeves along the marked points. Even out the sleeve ends and then notch the sleeve crown as shown. After notching, separate the sleeves, making sure to indicate the right and the wrong sides, and then fold each sleeve over so that you have the right sides facing each other. At this point, you can confirm the armhole measurement by measuring the sleeve crown all the way to the end. If you cut it correctly, you should end up with more than what you measured initially. Pin the sides as shown and then go ahead and mark out 1 inch sewing allowance and sew along these points. After sewing the sides, this is what the sleeves look like. The next thing to do is to make the elastic casing, and the best way to do that is to fold in 1/2 inch first and then fold in 1 inch after at the sleeve hem. So you want to go ahead and pin all of that into position, and you want to do this all around. After pinning all around, go ahead and sew, making sure to leave a gap of about 1 inch unsewn. The purpose of this gap is so that we have space to pass our elastic into the elastic casing. After sewing, this is what it looks like, and as you can see, I left the gap unsewn. So the next thing to do is to cut out the elastic that you need, and you want to make sure that your elastic is 1 inch smaller than your round sleeve measurement. Cut out 2 pieces of elastic and then attach the elastic onto a safety pin, and then go ahead and fit the elastic into the elastic casing of the sleeve. You want to go ahead and pass it all round till it comes out on the other side. And then when it comes out on the other side, go ahead and stitch the elastic close by sewing it together. You also want to top stitch the gap on the hem close. Afterwards, the next thing to do is to attach our sleeves onto the blouse. While pinning the sleeves to the top, the right sides of both pieces should face each other. Start off by pinning the side seams on the sleeve to the side seam on the top. Then go ahead and pin the notch on the sleeve crown to the shoulder line on the top. Afterwards, pin all around the sleeves. So I find that it's easier for me to work from the inside. So I go through the neckline and go ahead and pin my sleeves to my armhole all around. You want to make sure that you ease in the sleeve into the armhole, because there's every possibility that your sleeve will wind up bigger than the armhole, which is perfectly normal. So just go ahead and pin, making sure you ease the sleeves into the armhole. After pinning all around, this is what it looks like. So go ahead and join the two together by sewing on a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I'm going to repeat it again on the other side. So you basically want to match your side seam on both the sleeves and the top together, and then go ahead and match the notch on the sleeve crown to the shoulder line, and then go ahead and pin all around from the inside. So I go through the neckline of the top and pin all around, making sure to ease the sleeve in and then sew on a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So after sewing the sleeves, this is what it looks like. At this point, my top is practically ready, and the next thing to do is to go ahead and fix my button with a hand needle at the back. To finish up, hem the ends of your blouse by folding in 1/2 inch twice and then going ahead to sew that all around. Afterwards, go ahead and trim your blouse and then give it a good iron, and your blouse is practically ready to be worn. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was worth your while. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and don't forget to follow me on social media. Thank you so much guys for your support. You guys are absolutely incredible. See you in my next video. Bye.